our proof is not in her.
Welcome everybody, and as some of you may know, the Destiny 2 Early Access Beta started yesterday for the PS4 and today for the Xbox One. And so far, I gotta say, I am loving it. I really like the story mission, the way that they have brought new life into the characters is really awesome. The strike was really fun. I liked the mechanics of the boss fight and how it was different, not just a bullet sponge. And the Crucible is really fun as well. I enjoy the less ability spams. It's more gun oriented. I really like that. I really enjoyed that. I only have one little tiny problem. And it could potentially turn into a bigger problem. So at the end of Crucible matches, or if you redo the strike, you get gear. You could either get weapons or you could get armor. And the problem I'm seeing is that I've got a lot of duplicates, weapon-wise, at the end of matches. And in order to understand why I feel this is a problem, I'm going to explain how everything worked in Destiny 1. So when you got a weapon at the end of a Crucible match in Destiny 1, it would come with random rolls. And what I mean by rolls are these perks here. They would all be randomized. So if I got, let's say this weapon was in Destiny 1 and I got it again, most likely all these perks here would be completely different than the one that I already had. And what you could do with that is you could use the best one you got or the one with the highest light and infuse it into a better one that you have already. Or if it was just complete trash, you would dismantle it and you would get legendary marks, some motes of light, it depends on how leveled up it was. That was how Destiny 1 worked in regards to weapon rolls. And a lot of people found that it was too grindy, especially for weapons that were currently in the Crucible meta, like the IS Luna, the Lord High Fixer, shotguns at one point in time, clever dragons at one point in time. There were different weapons that ruled the Crucible at one time or other, if they weren't exotic, obviously, that you needed to grind for in order to get the quote-unquote god roll and be able to keep up with the best of them in the Crucible. Now, Bungie's thoughts on that whole process is that they want to try and appeal to more casual players in Destiny 2, gain a lot of their audience that may have left after the disappointment of vanilla Destiny, or they just left because it got too grindy and they didn't like that. And so their solution for that was in Destiny 2, any weapon you get will have these perks. So if I got this auto rifle again, the Scathe Lock, it would have these perks. Now you might be thinking, well, that's not bad. I mean, it limits the grind. If you don't have enough hours to play and grind that out, you just have to get the weapon and you'll be good. And that's fine. I understand that. But there are better ways to do this that's more of a middle ground for those hardcore players and for the casual players. Now, one of the problems that I see with this is that eventually the duplicates will have no value whatsoever. At least in Destiny 1, if I had a crap roll IS Luna, when I got a new one, it had the potential to be better than the one I had. Whether I was max light or under light level, either way, it had the potential to have better rolls, and I would keep it or exchange it for the next one that I got. In Destiny 2, duplicates other than attack level are not going to have any value. Now, I know this is the beta. I know everything could change between now and September 6th. which it might very well. We don't know that, but right now all we're seeing is that we could get weapon shaders, or we could infuse it. So once you hit max light, if you were to have a max light Scathelocke and get a new one, that new one would have no value, assuming that we get legendary shards from legendary weapons like these ones, kind of like how legendary marks worked in Destiny 1. Even then, once you fill the cap of legendary shards, it's still gonna be useless. Even if it's not full, by the end of the game, it's gonna be kind of like, whatever. Like, that was nice. so, so I don't like talking about problems without having a solution for them. So this is how I personally would suggest Bungie kind of fix and go down a middle path here. Back in Destiny Year 1, I believe with the House of Wolves expansion, people were able to, I don't know, it might not have been House of Wolves, I don't remember. People were able to re-roll weapons to get perks. So when you got a weapon that was good, you could grab shards. Was it light or shards? Whatever it was that you could use to re-roll the gun until you got the quote-unquote god roll, or the roll that you wanted, so that you enjoyed all the perks, got the best part out of the weapon that you wanted, got the best of that weapon type that you wanted. But a lot of people complained that it was, again, too casual, and Bungie eventually did away with it. And so my solution to that would be, let's bring weapon rerolls back. So you get a weapon, it's got random rolls on it, but let's put a cap on how many times you can re-roll a weapon. So let's say, again, I got this Scathelocke, and it has just a crap roll, but I like the gun, and let's say that this is part of the Crucible meta, and if you have the right rolls, you just dominate in the Crucible. And so I want that roll. I'm looking for that roll. Well, to help stop a little bit of the grind and not have to just play PvP over and over and over and over again until you get the gun that you want, or you may never get it, I say that we have an option down here in the mods section to re-roll the weapon 3 times using either legendary marks or exotic shards, or something like these upgrade points that they have for the subclasses, something that would be specifically for re-rolling the weapon. And so what you could do, let's say you just got the Scathelocke and you're like, oh, I kind of like high caliber rounds. Now, to add on to being able to re-roll the weapon, I think you should be able to use legendary marks or an exotic shard or something and lock that perk into place and then re-roll everything else around it. So let's say you liked high caliber rounds and you like the Mark 10 glass and you like the under pressure trait, and you could use one exotic shard or 25 legendary marks or whatever per tree here, per column. And then you could go down here, re-roll, and then see what else pops up here. And you're like, oh, I like that one and that one. You could choose between whether you want to keep high caliber rounds or switch it to tactical mag and switch these around and see and re-roll it again, and then see what you get at that point in time. Eventually, you'll get something that you'll like. So it might not be a quote-unquote god roll, but it should be better at the end than what you were given to begin with. And doing that, this makes the duplicates that you get in endgame have more value. So if you get a duplicate of this Skaithlock and you've already re-rolled another one and you've got it to a point where you think it's good, but then you get this new one and it's just better, all around better than what you already have. So you get rid of the other one and then you re-roll from here to get that god roll. You just keep going. That makes it to where not only can casual players have the potential to get those god roll weapons, but hardcore players can get them without having to grind nearly as hard. But it won't be as easy as just being given a weapon and being like, here you go. Another problem that I have with the set perks is that what happens to, let's say, 75% of these weapons? They're not going to see the light of day. They took the time, Bungie took the time to make these weapons for us. And once the meta is out for Crucible, those are all the guns that are going to see playtime. That's it. People might use different guns in PvE, but even then, once we find out what you need for the raid, or what's good for this certain strike, or these types of strikes, or these public events, what is above everything else, nothing besides those weapons will see play. And with my idea here, at least you can use the weapon that you like. In Destiny 1, I was a big fan of the Omelan weapons. I liked how they looked, I liked how they fired, I liked the little liquid parts in them, and I could never really use them because you would get stomped on in the Crucible, and that's not fun to do. But if I was able to re-roll some of those perks and get the best out of the archetype that I was working with in scout rifles or hand cannons or whatever, if I could get the best out of that archetype as I could with my favorite weapon in that archetype, at least I stood a better chance than not using whatever the meta was. So this makes it to where a wider variety of weapons can be used to combat different weapons that are seen as the lords of the Crucible at the moment. And at that point, it's just archetype versus archetype, really. It doesn't matter what gun you use. You could use, let's say, D1, you could use Grasp of Malok, or the Clever Dragon, and whichever one you thought was cooler, you could just re-roll until you got the god roll of that one, and it could go up against another of that archetype and still do just fine. It would do just fine. Having that value to these weapons, I think, would do a lot of good, because I don't want to see the hard work that people put into not only designing and creating and mapping out these weapons into virtual space and then adding cool skins to them. It all means nothing if nobody uses them. It's really sad. So, to recap, I love the beta. It's fun. I think the weapon perk lock system is the wrong way to go. There's a nice middle ground that you could go. So let me know your thoughts on this, guys. Leave a comment down below. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up rating. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It really helps me out. Stay professional.